Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth." But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the men were building. The Lord said, "If as one people speaking the same language, they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language, so they will not understand each other." So the Lord scattered them from there all over the earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole world. From there the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth. You know, when God created man in the Garden of Eden, he created man in his own image. And in doing so, he gave men talents and abilities far beyond any other living creature that he made. We today man can reason, think, and plan, and invent things. And we today are the beneficiary of all the inventions that have been made through past history. In fact, one of the greatest is that we, this morning when you came to church, you rode in a car that was supported by wheels. The wheel was one of the first inventions of mankind. It's a great invention, and it really was a boon to mankind. Most inventions of man are good. They profit man and make his life easier and better. But this is not always the case with every invention. Some inventions can have negative impacts on man's well-being. They are usually used for ill gain or ill will, and they're spawned by evil intentions. Take, for example, the story of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11 that we just read. Following the flood, men all spoke the same language, and the descendants of Noah settled in the land on the plain of Shinar. There they presumptuously decided to build a city and a great tower that would reach to heaven and to God himself. They showed no respect for God, and they wanted to do this alone, to make a name for themselves. We know then that God confused their language and put an end to this their bold plan. Even the secular writer and historian Josephus stated that the leader of the people of that time was King Nimrod. If you remember, Nimrod was the grandson of Noah, and he was a great hunter, a great warrior hunter. And it was he that audaciously made the statement that he would build a tower so high that no flood water of God could ever reach the top. This was to avenge what God had done to his ancestors in the great flood of Noah's time. Well, that was by Josephus. That's not in the Bible. Let's fast forward now to take a look at one of the most awesome and pervasive inventions of man till now. It's an invention that puts the concept of communication, which is what they were doing as they built that tower, communicating with one another. The invention that I'm going to talk about today puts the idea of communication on steroids. That in itself is not harmful or detrimental, but the misuse of it can cause irreparable harm. I'm talking about the computer. I'm talking about the World Wide Web, social media, and in general, the technology of communication. We definitely are people that are connected, and I would be the first to praise the blessings and benefits of our electronic world. It cuts across all facets of our life, our disciplines, our culture, and our country. From aardvarks to zebras, nothing is left untouched. Sadly, Satan understands technology as well as we, if not better, and he puts his stamp of abuse on it at every opportunity he can. For the short time that I'm up here today, I'd like to talk to you about a subject that I just entitled, Is Technology Killing God's People? Specifically, there are 4 subtopics I'd like to look at, and they all start with the letter M, M as in Mary. And those 4 topics are minutes, morality, misinformation, and mission. Looking at minutes, Jesus said in John 9, verse 4, "As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work." And in Ephesians 5:15 and 16, Paul writes, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil." These 2 verses clearly teach that God expects us to do the work that we as Christians are assigned. Looking out over the audience here today, it seems that we have a lot of retired people. How many of us, we get up in the morning and we have a to-do list? And as the morning begins, we look at that list, and then as we go through the day, one thing or another comes up. Maybe we even take a nap. And by the end of the day, we look at that list, and hardly anything, if anything, is crossed off. We get sidetracked with one thing or another. According to a study by Forbes Research in 2021, the average American spends 3.5 hours per day on social media. That is 1,300 hours a year. Or, if you want to break it down a little bit further, it's 25 hours per week. The number 1 site that was looked at, can you guess? It was Facebook. The average person spends 58 minutes per day on Facebook. I believe it's probably more at this time. More study has calculated that if a person starts at age 13 and lives to age 79, they have spent over 10 years of their life on social media. For TV, it is 7 years and 8 months. For eating and drinking, 3 years and 5 months. For grooming, 1 year and 10 months. For socializing, 1 year and 3 months. And for doing laundry, 6 months. I know that most of you women think that it's a little bit more than 6 months. What this means is that the average person spends more time on social media than he does on eating, drinking, and socializing combined. How is this possible? Probably because while they're eating and drinking, they're on social media. Do you think our country is being distracted by technology? Absolutely. The stats show that the average American spends 12% of his or her lifetime on social media. Think of our younger generation. Our young people know they are are bombarded every single day with this in their lives. It is no wonder that we hear the refrain so often, and this is not just from young people, it's from adults too. I just don't have time to study my Bible, or go to Bible study, or spend time in the Word. During the COVID era, screen time, and what I mean by screen time is looking at your iPhone, your TV, your iPad, your laptop, your desktop, anything that had a screen. It increased 17% among young people during the COVID era. For tweens, and that was a new concept to me, tweens are age 8 to 12. They spend 5 hours and 33 minutes a day on social media. For teens, ages 13 to 18, they average 7 hours and 22 minutes a day. Imagine that. A normal work day is 8 hours, so that's just shy of a normal work day. One older sister in the faith once suggested, since in the Old Testament, we gave 10% of our income to God, why not give 10% of our time to God? If a week is calculated to have 168 hours, then 10% of that is 16.8 hours a week. Now we could round that off to 17 hours. If a person reads and prays for 1 hour a day, that is 7 hours a week. And if he attends all the services that are available, that's another about 5 hours per week. And if he visits the brethren 1 hour on Monday, and he visits church visitors 1 hour on Tuesday, and if he visits the unfaithful 1 hour on Wednesday, and if he devotes an hour to visiting the sick on Thursday, and then if he takes off Friday, he still has left 90% of the week left. Truly, Satan has pirated our time. Satan is a time bandit. What about the next word, M word, and that is morality? Do you think technology has affected our morality? There's no doubt about it. In 1988, about 11% of the population approved of homosexuality. By 2021, that number had risen from 11% to 70%. Currently, among millennials, now a millennial is about age 22 to 44. Among the millennials, there's an 84% approval rating of homosexuality. Now think about it. Those millennials were born in the late 80s, thereabouts. They have been bombarded with that kind of teaching from then till now. Is it any wonder that they have that much of approval rating? Is media affecting us? Is it affecting our children? Absolutely. Across the media, come the month of June, which was last month, we are bombarded with Gay Pride Month. Homosexuality is so mainstream now that most people feel that such people are born that way, even though there is no evidence to prove otherwise. All liberal news feeds push that agenda. TV sitcoms, commercials, and documentary specials advocate for this. Nothing can be more disgusting than to see two actors of the same gender entangled in romantic embrace. Homosexuals are portrayed as reasoned, fair-minded individuals, and those who oppose them as bigots, narrow-minded, and prejudiced. Has this in-your-face type of agenda affected the church? Sadly, it has. In 2018, a few years ago, David Lipscomb College, a college sponsored and associated with the Church of Christ, celebrated LGBTQ Day, and they painted the school mascot a bison in rainbow colors. And when the Supreme Court authorized gay marriage in 2015, there was widespread support. It freed Hardeman College. I have three nephews, and two nieces that have gone to freed Hardeman College. And we can't ignore the elephant in the room. There is an epidemic surge in the use of pornography. Research has shown that 2/3 of men view pornography on a monthly basis. For men ages 18 to 30, its use is 79%. For those ages 31 to 49, it is 67%. And for men 50 to 68, it is 50%. 68 is good to be pretty old. Even on Facebook, there's not much daylight between what could be considered pornographic or not. I don't have statistics for women, but what about modesty? In many cases, it has been replaced by what can only be termed as flaunting. Movies that stream into homes today portray adulterous relationships and promote illicit affairs. One minister of the gospel was noted to have a sign atop his TV that stated, "How dare we be entertained by things that sent Jesus to the cross?" Let me read that one more time. How dare we be entertained by things that sent Jesus to the cross? James tells us in the first chapter, verse 27, that we should keep ourselves from being polluted by the world. The next STEM word is misinformation. Study after study has shown that information from the internet is notoriously lacking in credibility. Forbes reported that whatever it was information about, such as COVID, vaccines, presidential election, climate change, social media, news feeds, and mainstream networks, were permeated with misinformation. Another study revealed that the big tech giants, such as Microsoft, YouTube, Google, Apple, tried to skew voters toward candidates on the left and limited information about Roe versus Wade when it was overturned by the Supreme Court recently. Remember, Roe versus Wade was the approval of abortion that was passed in 1973. What if our children get their information through these venues about dating, homosexuality, morality, abortion, and the like? I think the outcome is predictable. It was none other than Vladimir Lenin, who led the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917. He made the statement, "Give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted." Compare that with what Solomon said in Proverbs 22:6. "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when they are old, they will not turn away from it." I could go on and on about misinformation and how it's thrown at us every day from all the media sources that we come in contact with. One thing that I haven't mentioned is influencers. Just the name influencer should raise a red flag to you. Influencers are people on social media who attempt to get you to think, do, act, or buy something that you would normally not buy or do or think. We are fighting a battle that is hard to win. when our children are bombarded with this stuff every day and at school, we have almost insurmountable odds. The minds of children are pliable. They're like little sponges. They eagerly soak up everything that's presented to them. If we don't fill their minds with right thinking, right teachings, then someone will fill their minds with wrong teachings. The last word we're going to look at is mission. What is our mission? What is our purpose in life? Why are we here? Revelation chapter 4 and verse 11 tells us, "You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have being." And then Solomon in Ecclesiastes sums it up quite well. He says, "Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of mankind." A person might become a goat, and I don't mean, when I say goat, I don't mean an old billy goat. I mean a goat that's G-O-A-T. That is an acronym now for someone who has achieved the highest level of performance, greatest of all time. Usually refers to someone in sports like the best baseball player, the greatest baseball player, greatest basketball player. But it could also mean someone who is greatest in any endeavor, maybe the greatest businessman, the greatest scientist, or whatever. But even though they are the greatest, if they don't fear God and keep his commandments, they are nothing. Let me close with this story. During the Civil War, there was a soldier who joined his company, and they were encamped in a particular area just waiting for orders to put boots on the ground and move out to the battlefield. They were there quite a few days, and this soldier's buddies learned that he was a watchmaker and watch repairman, and they soon began bringing all their watches to him to have him fix them and tinker with them and get them running good again and keeping good time. Finally, orders came through to ship out. And the watchmaker excitedly said, "But wait, I can't leave. I've got 30 watches in my tent that I need to repair." What's the problem there? He had forgotten what he was there for. Let me leave you with one question. Is it possible that with all the entertainment venues that are at our disposal, such as Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, SiriusXM, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Paramount, YouTube, Apple TV, Gallery, Peacock, HBO Max, Disney, have I left any out? Is it just possible that we live in a culture where entertainment is our primary goal and craving in life? Thank you.